All right, so we should be live and we'll be beginning in around 5 minutes. Yeah. All right, this is RN50. Welcome back to everyone. Hopefully, you enjoyed the holiday last week. For those who chose not to attend the optional session, it was honestly quite good. I did share the solution to the to-do application that you had to make for Project Zero. So those people did get the benefit of that. And we also went over a few doubts plus a quiz, and we also looked at some JavaScript objects. So recall that in the last few weeks, we have been really diving deep into React Native. We started out with actually JavaScript, going into React Web. React Web was, of course, the Firehose lecture. And then we went into React Native, which is much slower, and just looking at how React Native works. Then we did user input and validation. And just to test everyone on that lecture, can you name a few methods of validating some input in user input while we're taking some input? Could anyone name any methods of validating input? So one of the methods is, of course, to keep the button, the submit button, disabled unless a certain criteria is met. Right. Last time we actually looked at it'll be disabled unless the user enters one letter. Right. Um, what else did we do in last time's React Native application to validate some input? I'll give you a hint. We were actually looking at what happens if the user enters a capital
Look at
letter.
yes, a lowercase and uppercase.
Yeah, good job. So we were converting everything to lowercase, right? So yeah, so those are the two essential methods. And one more thing is, what is the component React Native uses for you to to take input essentially? What's the name of the
Text,
component? Sorry?
text.
No, text is just to wrap any kind of text. What you're close, you're on the right track. What is the name of that input component? Text what?
Text input. I think I'm
Good job. Yeah, text input is the correct answer. All right, so today we'll be moving away from React Native and just looking at the internet in general, okay, and how websites work, how servers work, things like that. Because this knowledge, and we'll also be looking at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, by the way. So this knowledge is integral for you to learn React Native further, because we'll be doing a lot of work with managing servers. So for example, say someone logs into our app, how do we collect that data, right? So our data will be stored somewhere online, things like that. Okay. All right, so TC, okay, again, I don't have slides today because a lot of today's work will be done by typing and browser to look through the browser. All right, so TCP/IP. Would anyone like to expand on that acronym?
could you please repeat the acronym?
TCP/IP.
PCPIP.
It's a common short form used when talking about the internet and servers.
IP, I think Internet Protocol.
Good job. IP is Internet Protocol. What does TCP stand for?
Transmission Control Protocol.
Yep. Actually, I think it's Transfer Communication Protocol, actually. But yeah, I mean, so essentially it's Transfer Communication Protocol, Internet Protocol, right? And somewhere or the other, you must have heard this word TCP IP, or at least IP. When you get routers, it'll say your IP address is, or say there's an error that you get, and it says, okay, DNS server's IP address could not be found, right? So what does this mean? All right, so there are very few people who can see this, but one second, I'm just gonna get this ready. I have an article in front of the camera. Okay. What? Okay. Say you're writing a letter to someone, right? What do you write? What do you? So say you. I mean, I hope I can find the paper. My desk's a complete mess. But okay, this is not what I planned for. Okay, there we go. There we go. So say you have an envelope, right? Um, and you put in a letter or some kind of postal thing. What would you write on that envelope? What are the things that you write on top of that envelope when you post it?
Address.
Good job. Whose address specifically?
Sorry.
Whose address? Do you write your address or the sender's address? Like
Sender.
the
Both
person you're
addresses.
sending it to. Sorry, yeah, Muskan?
Both addresses.
Good job. So you write both addresses, right? And there's one more thing that you put. What do you put on that envelope? In a corner.
Date.
Sorry?
Date.
Okay, date, yeah. But that's not what I was mentioning, but good job. There's one
Name?
last thing. Okay, fine. Things that actually parameters that I didn't think of.
Yeah.
There's one thing that's very integral thing that you stick at the corner. You get it for around 1 to 5 rupees in India.
Stamp.
Stamp.
Yeah, good job. It is a stamp, right? So here we have this envelope. I wish I had a stamp with me, but say we have this envelope and I can't write. But say we write somewhere on this envelope the address and say on this side we write someone else's address, date, time, and in this one corner we put the stamp and we send it, right? So now would we like to expand on, okay, let's go in order. Why is the sender's address or why is your address important to put on that envelope? Would anyone like to tell me why is your address important? Or actually, why is the recipient's address important? Why is the person who you're sending the envelope to, why is their address important? Why didn't
Because
you
it
put it?
should reach to a correct person.
Yeah, good job. I mean, because the postal address, the postal office won't really know who to send it to otherwise, right? Why is the date and time important? I would like to expound on that. So for whoever gets it, they can figure out when you sent it, right? Just to verify. A stamp. Why do you think a stamp is important? Why do we put a stamp on an envelope? Would anyone like to guess? That you're doing in the corner, right? And finally, why is your address important? Internet. Okay. Why is your address important?
Because the
Uh,
receiver has to
Why
know
do you
from
write your
whom
address
the
there? Yeah.
message came.
yeah, they should know. They should
Yeah, that's
verify the
important. Yeah, that's correct. And also, say something wrong happens and say that the message could not be delivered, the envelope will return to you, right? So that you can have it again and then repost it next time, right? So now let's think of this envelope as an email, okay? So say this paper that I have in my hand. The message body, right? Okay. Now, say I take an envelope, okay? My desk is very cluttered. Sorry. Say I take an envelope and say this envelope is our email, okay, like a complete email. So what do you think would be on the envelope? If this paper is the email body and or if this paper also contains the subject, what do you think this envelope contains? What will be written on this envelope? Would anyone like to guess? So think of a generic email that you send out. What else do you write apart from the body and subject? Or what else do you see when someone sends you an email? Uh, okay. Uh, so you would write the to, you would write who you'd send it to. You would write who it is from, that's you. You wouldn't write that actually, but like the email thing would, and the date and time, right? There's one more thing that's important. That's that stamp. Now, what is that stamp? Well, that stamp is essentially the IP address. So think of it as if you have a stamp, right? If you have a stamp that's put at the corner of the envelope when sending a letter, that same is a digital stamp or a digital signature, if you will, put by your email client when sending this email out. Okay, saying that okay, this was sent from my computer, and that stamp, that verification is the IP address. Questions about all this? Questions about what the IP address is? Anyone? Right. So now, why is this IP address important? Would anyone like to guess? Why is this IP address important now that we identified that it's used in transmitting emails? But the IP address is not only used for emails, right? It's used for a lot of things. So why is it important? Why does every single device, why does my phone here have an IP address? Why does the laptop that I'm using have an IP address?
because it should reach to a correct
What do you
person.
like guessing? Yeah, okay, that may be one thing. Why else? We use it as a stamp. A stamp is what? Why do we use an IP address as a stamp? I'll give you a hint. Every single
This is to identify the
yeah,
mission, its
right, good
location.
job. So it is to identify, it's some form of identification, right? So if I'm sending this from my computer, it's some form of that remote location online to know, hey, this fellow's computer has sent it, right? But why do we use IP addresses? What's so special about IP addresses that we use them as identifications? Why not? I don't know. When sending an email, you probably enter your fingerprint or something. Why not that? Why IP addresses? Okay, so every device has a unique IP address. Okay, and so these unique IP addresses identify your device on the internet, right? Now, mine is while I'm sharing this. Not a very bright idea, but 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so now there's a way to figure out your IP address, and this may be useful. Why do you think figuring out your IP address may be useful? Oh, okay, there we go. So why do you think figuring out what your IP address is could be useful? Why do you think knowing your IP address could be useful?
One is for router settings.
Right. So you can basically set up your router, right? So say so every router has a software. So say you want to upgrade your router software, you can use your IP address. Or say something happened to your router, you can use your IP address to identify your router. What else? I'll give you a hint. People can connect to your computer as if your computer was a server. So does that ring any bells? Why would you use an IP address in that case? Would anyone like to guess? So if people can connect to your computer as if it was a server wirelessly, what would they use to connect? What would they enter into their URL bar, the address bar of their computers or laptops or phones, browsers?
Yes, the 198 and
Good job. So they would basically type in the IP address, right? All right. So questions about that. Questions about why IP addresses are useful or what they are. Right. So we mentioned the word server, right? So what does a server mean? Would anyone like to answer that or guess what a server is?
server is a
It's the
backend.
main computer.
Yeah, Muskan, good job. It's set up using a computer. So it's basically a computer running some code. What is that code? You mentioned the word there, Karthik. Would you mind saying that again?
Yes,
What did you
yes,
say?
it's a backend system where information is stored, and as and when the client requests, it is gathered from there.
Yeah, so it's essentially the back end, some place probably in the US, some computer in the US or Germany or Europe or somewhere in Asia, somewhere. It's some computer that's basically storing all the logic for a website or an application or something like that. And as and when the client does something, or the client is me, that's my computer. So as and when I type something or click some button or respond to some input, the server is going to do something. It's going to do something with that information. It's going to add to it. It's going to remove it. It's basically going to manipulate it. And it's going to manipulate your client. So it'll say I click a link, right? It'll send me somewhere else in that server. Say I click a button, it's going to do something. So that's what a server is, and also what a client is. All right, so but a server to do all this will require something called requests. All right, so let's go to Google, for example. So I'm gonna go to Google. Hopefully, Google loads. Okay, Google does load. Say I want to type uh, React Native into my Google, and I click enter. It's gonna search. Come on, there we go. All right, now I'm going to copy that URL. Okay, connect to Chrome. Let's open up something like Notepad. And all right, let's look at this URL. So it says https://www.google.com/search SXSRF equals ALLKEKK01. Oh my God, this is a lot of input, right? It's gibberish, right? It just goes on. And but there is something here. That's an ampersand sign and source equals, and I or source equals HP and I equals some number, right? And Q equals, and Q equals React plus native and OQ equals React plus native. And oh my God, it just keeps continuing. But look at that thing that says https://www.google.com/search. Would someone want to tell me why it's slash search? Why is that part there? Anyone like to guess why slash search? Or why not dash search? Or why even search? All right. So
You are on that search browser, right?
yeah, so that's a good thing. So like think of this now. So we thought of sending things and IP addresses and information as email as envelopes, right? Essentially think of your servers as just like a road, okay? And each road branches off into a different road. So each road that branches off is called a route, okay? So each server will have a slash route, okay, which is just the main route. So if you just enter https://www.google.com, it will most likely direct you to this slash route or any website for that matter. For example, if I go to our website, that is RN50, whoops, 50 dot blog.com. And now if we copy that link, right, and just focus on this https or actually http://rn50.lovestheblog.com slash, right? Don't focus on the question I equals 1. Just look at that slash. So that slash means we're on the default page. And what is our default page? Well, so let's look. It's our home page, right? That's just basically having all the links to every single is basically our home page. And this home page will we talk about how to design in it just a second. Now, one more thing is say, suppose we go to week 2 and say we copy that link. And if we look at it now, http://rn50.lovestheblog.com week/week2.html, right? So essentially what it's doing is the server is looking through the roads that it has and it says, oh, okay, so load up, because it's a computer, right? Load up this week2.html file and just show it. Just show it on the screen, show whatever it has to do, okay? Say we had an image here, we would essentially, or actually, say we go back, oops. All right, so something is breaking. Okay, it's just loading. Again, we thought of a server as a road, right? And it has multiple routes. But a server is also a computer, right? It's what was the definition of a server? Would anyone like to just educate me on that again? I forgot. What did we call as the definition of a server? It's some backend, what? Muskan said it. So it's a computer, right? And what does a computer have? It is files. So if I go to week 3, and if I click on this link, or actually if I don't click on that link, if I copy that link, and if you look at it, so excuse me, ftp:// fs_27 1123 s3 colon s blah 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 blah. at ftp.net slash htdocs slash, and look at the last line, src3.zip. Would anyone like to tell me what happens when I click on this link? What will happen if I click on this link? What will it download?
Can you repeat
What do you think?
last few characters?
SRC, well, you're close. SRC, I'll repeat the whole link.
Okay.
FTP, one second. FTP colon slash slash epis underscore 27 112363 colon SUVHVC8S 58330I83 at FTP upload.net slash htdocs slash src3.zip.
So some document gets downloaded.
What do you think? The last few characters are slash
DOCS, right?
ht. Sorry?
DOCS.
No, okay, okay, I'll repeat that. It's slash htdocs slash src3.zip. What do you think?
Sorry again, I don't
I
know if
gave you
it
that
was
hint.
just me.
What do you
Your
think?
voice, yeah.
Down. Sorry, yeah, my internet's kind of unstable today. Hopefully it irons out. So what this is doing is it's basically going to the server, the FTP upload.net server, going to the into the htdocs folder, going to that route, and basically getting that src3.zip file, and it'll download that file. All right. Okay, that was a huge mouthful. Does anyone have any questions? I think my voice broke in the middle. So do you want me to repeat anything, or does anyone have any questions? I'll go back to that link so you can take a look at it. Does anyone have any questions about servers, about how they work, anything at all? All right. So you may be thinking, all right, how do we write websites for these servers, right? A simple answer would be HTML. Now, would anyone like to tell me what does HTML stand for?
Hypertext markup language.
Yeah, hypertext markup language. And would you like to expand on that a bit? What exactly does that mean? Like,
Um,
why do we write HTML?
it's a client-side code.
Okay, that
Basically,
means, yeah,
yeah,
that essentially
it,
client side, just for those who don't know, it is something that runs on your computer.
yes, it is something that we see.
Yeah, it's something that we see. So it essentially defines what the web page should look like, right?
Yes.
All right. So, and in that sense, HTML is, what do you think? Is it an imperative or declarative type of programming?
Uh, it's an imperative.
Actually, no. Imperative is where you say what to do and how to do it. Declarative will just be like, what do you want? So HTML will actually be declarative because we're not telling HTML how to render an H3 or a button or a link. We're just telling you we want an H3 or a button or a link, right? So
Yeah.
that's essentially what, yeah. All right, so let's look at our first HTML page. Now, for HTML, you essentially need to, so let's say we need to write, there are a few lines that you absolutely need to write. And the first is this exclamation mark, DOC, TYPE in capitals, and then HTML in small. And all HTML tags. Now, tag is essentially something that you see, okay? So all HTML tags are enclosed in these angle brackets, which is a less than and greater than sign, okay? And all HTML tags, say we want to render a button, it'll close with So each has an opening tag and a close tag, and the close tag will always be slash followed by whatever the name of the opening tag was. Okay. Now, in this case, the doc type HTML tag does not have a closing tag. So the next tag is just going to be the HTML tag enclosed in these angle brackets. And then we have the head tag. Now the head is essentially metadata. Metadata is essentially what the users do not see and what the browser needs or search engine needs to probably search your website, or it basically needs to render your website. So say we say title is a tag, and the title will be say hello uh, title. And see here we use that slash title there, right? That essentially saying, okay, I wrote my title, now close that title tag. That's just by saying opening and closing parentheses, but in this case it's more verbose. And then we close the head tag. How will we close the head tag? I just wrote it on the screen, but anyone would like to just tell me?
Less slash head.
Yeah, slash head. Then we'll open the body tag. And the simplest of HTML apps is just no tag and just hello world. Body, close the HTML tag. All right, so let's save this. Uh, hello.html. Oh, okay, that's saved in the application. Never mind. All right, so let's open up hello.html. And there we go. So we just see hello world rendered on the screen. Now, say we want to open up, we can view the page source. So we have HTML, head, title, body, and there we go. It's essentially our code that we wrote. Right? All right. Oh, didn't want to open that. Let's close that. Close that. Close that. All right, we can even do multiple lines. Say, context menu open up. There we go. So let's open this up with Notepad again. Open up with Notepad and say, oh, and below hello world, we may write something like, how are you? All right, so let's save that. Open it again. And what looks weird about this? I'm
Maybe we
not sure
have
if you
not
can, I'm not
closed
sure
the
if many
file.
of you will be able to see. No, it's fine. The code is rendering. It's rendering as "Hello World, how are you" on the screen. But what do you think will be weird? I'm pretty sure majority of you cannot see, but for anyone over here who can actually see,
Yeah, maybe we are looking for some styling.
not really. It's an aesthetic detail, but what it will be is we wrote "Hello World" and then "How are you" below that, right? But it's rendering as which tags this note that.
My friend, can you repeat those last few sentences? Hi, Pranav, your voice is completely breaking.
All right. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, loud and clear this time.
That. Ooh, okay. Yeah, internet glitch.
Your voice is breaking again, Pranav.
Oh, give
Yeah.
me, okay, guys. At this stage, I think it'll be better if we take a break for 5 minutes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just saying, I think we can have a 5 minute breather, and when we come back, we will continue with HTML.
Fine.
So even I can figure out my internet.
Yeah.
Hi.
I think I don't know, but that might not be a good experience. But can you switch off the video if it is not at all working? Then
Yeah, I will do that. Just 1 second.
Pranav, you are on mute.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out my
Okay,
internet
okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
I just thought you are speaking on mute.
Yeah, no, I realized.
Okay.
So, are you going to be here for the 5 minutes? So I can just test my net then.
Yes.
Cool. All right, is my voice a little clearer? Or is it clear at least?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so I'll just, as I said, I'll wait for a few more minutes and we'll continue with HTML. I will essentially just start out HTML again completely. All right, everyone here with me? And we still have an hour left, or probably lesser. Everyone here? And should we begin, or do you need more time to press your legs and so on?
I think I don't see anyone who has left the meeting.
All right, cool. So we will get started. So essentially what was happening was we have this hello.html file, and if I
Yes,
should
I was
remove,
just thinking about it, Pranav. Maybe we have not closed it. Some tag is
no,
there.
so we do not have tags, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so
Yes,
we've
it's just
shown,
rendering as text.
yeah, it's just rendering as text, and thus, even though our text is on 2 lines, it's just showing it on 1 line. So how will we fix this?
We have this BR element, right?
Okay, BR is one way. Is there another way to kind of format this a little? We're not using tags. We're
Yeah.
using,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The P.
Good
Uh,
job. So the P tag, so this is essentially a paragraph tag, and we'll close it by just saying /P. So if I have P and /P on both sides, and if I reload, and there we go. So hello world is on 1 line, and how are you is on another line. So perfect. So that's a P tag. Now, apart from P tags, we have a lot of other things. We can have headings. So H, actually, if I can copy this whole thing and open up a new file, do not want to save it, and say, uh, now say we can have headings. So we can have an H1. These are all tags. So each one is one tag. We'll say this is an H1. We can have H2. This is an H2. And H3. This is an H3. H4. This is an H4. Go up to 6. So H5.
We have till 6.
Yeah, good job. So we have till 6. H5 and H6. This is an H6. If I save this as headings HTML, save that. If I open up headings.html now, oh, forgot to change the title. Never mind. So there we go. So we have 6 headings. H1, H2, H4, H5, 6. Now, would anyone like to tell me what is the difference? Like, which is the most important heading and so on and so forth?
I think by default H1 has some higher font.
Yeah,
And
it's bold. It's bold.
yes, bold.
And the font is the
And
highest.
it keeps going down.
Good job. So it keeps going down. So essentially H1 is the most, like the most important headings will be H1 and like the least important will be H6, right? So, okay, we can have headings. Say we want to render something in a better format. So say we want a table, all right? So I'll get rid of, I'm using my, say we want to render students with marks, right? So I can just say table, and I can have a TH. What does TH stand for?
Table header.
Good job. In a table header, I can have a TR. What is TR?
Table row.
Yeah. And then I can have a TD. What does TD stand for?
That's table data.
Okay. What is table data?
Table data is basically, we usually have it in second row, and it's based on the column header and row header. Just
Yeah.
yes.
All right. So I usually plan to use it in the header as well. Just kind of a stylistic approach. And I'm just going to say students, and we close that, and uh, marks, close the TR, close the TD, and then I can just say, oh, didn't want to close TD, I wanted to close TH, and then TP, now TB is table body. Then we can have a row that says Angelina. Oh God, what's happening to my coding skills today? PB Angelina in a TD, and say she got 50 on 50, right? So 50 on 50. Close the row. Ooh, okay, PR. Say we have TD Krishna, and say he got 47 on 50. We can have another TR, and this fellow will be, let's see, who will this guy be? Drew. And say Drew was a terrible student, so he got 5 on 50. Hope none of us get that. Table. Right. Hopefully I did not. Oh, tables.html. I'll save that file. And hopefully, hey, so row one, students and marks. We have Angelina. She got 50 on 50. Krishna's got 47 on 50. And Drew failed with 5 on 50. So questions about any of these so far? All right. So, but this is boring, right? Because all of this text is just getting rendered, right? Oh God, I forgot to share my screen. There we go. Now it is shared. All right. I'm gonna copy. Oh, well, I had a copy. Say we want to create something that links to Google. Okay. Anyone care to tell me what tag I could use?
For link, right?
Yeah.
Anchor.
Yeah, so we can use the anchor tag, and it's weird because it's not labeled link. There is another tag called link that links files. So we say anchor, and say we can say go to Google, close the anchor, and let's save this and see what happens if we run it. Uh, let's just say links.html. And all right, it does not work. It just renders the text. Why? Would anyone like to tell me why? Why does it only render the text? And why is it not a link and I'm not able to click on it to go to Google? What have I missed? My code is less than sign a greater than sign go to Google less than sign slash a greater than sign. What am I missing?
We need to specify the address.
Yeah, so
Carrier.
essentially what HTML properties can also take are these things called attributes or props, okay? In this case, the anchor tag has a required prop, which is called href, which is hyperlink reference, and we say href equals quote and HTTPS. You have to include HTTPS or HTTP :// www.google.com. All right. And now if I save this, reload the page. Oh, still reloading. All right, so there we go. There's a link. And if I click on this link, voila, it directs me to Google. Okay. We can even have forms. So if I open up a new thing and say we want a form, so paste this in. Uh, so we'll say form. Now action is essentially just what should happen when the user submits the form. Usually that's some script that you run in the server. I'm just going to say empty quotes. And let's say, now we can have multiple types of inputs, okay? So say we want the name. So we type input type equals name. So input has this prop called type and place holder equals enter your name. What else do we want? Well, we might want a value equals name. And there we go. Then we can also have another input type equals email placeholder equals enter your email address. Value will be email address. Uh, we can even have, now finally, let's have an input. You can have many inputs like radio button and things like that. Finally, let's have an input that says submit, type equals submit, value equals register. Okay. Now what the submit input will do is it basically submits the form. So whatever action you provided, it'll do that action. Otherwise, it'll just refresh the page. So form.html. And before I run this, would anyone like to guess what will happen if I click on this file and run it? What will show up on my screen?
We will have a form field.
Yeah, we'll have a form field. So let's actually try that. I'm going to hit enter. Let's type my name is Pranav. My email address is pranavsavla2003@gmail.com. Click on register. And something I did wrong. Gmail.com. And there we go. It just refreshed the page. All right. Now say we want this to do something, right? So I'm going to clear all this out. Paste. Oh. Now say we want to recreate a web browser. Okay, so I say form. I'll leave and say we want to use Google search engine. So I'm leaving the action empty. Yeah. All right. So we have an input, which is of type text. Place folder. E will be enter your search queries here. Value equals right. We'll have an input type is submit, value is search. So it's the form. And if I save this and we can enter our search queries, say I want to search for cats, and it's just doing nothing. Cats, search for cats. All right, it doesn't do anything. How do we make it do something? Well, we can, in the action, provide https://www.google.com. Google.com. Google.com/search. And if I save, and if I type cats, that good in theory. Oh, something is breaking. All right. Cats. Cat. And there we go. See, it essentially directs us to Google. So we have, in a way, made a web browser. And this is how web browsers are made. Okay. Questions about links, forms, everything like that. All right, yeah. All right, so the last thing today's lecture is actually going to be very short, but the last thing today is get and post and request. Okay, so where do we start? We start out with emails, right? And when you send an email, what do you essentially request? Or actually, let's take an even better example. Say you are requesting for some data. Okay, say you're requesting for, I don't know, your emails to be shown. So, what would you do? You would go to gmail.com, or say you're searching for something and you search and click search, and essentially you're requesting for all those results, right? So where do you request those results from? What will give you the results?
Yes, the backend.
Yeah, the server, right? In this case, it'll be Google server because you're searching to Google, right? So that is, well, you can search that way. And what will this request be called? Because you're making some kind of request. So this is essentially called, oh, whoops, I think I figured out what, 1 second. Something's gone wrong. Just want to fix something here. Uh, Hopefully this will run. This demo may not work well. All right, so there we go. So what kind of request are you making? Well, you're getting some data, so you're making a GET request, okay? So every time you type something in the search and click on the search button or hit enter, Google in the backend is basically, or your web browser is basically saying, hey, www.google.com, wherever your server is located, get me all this data related to whatever that word, all right? So that is a GET request. Now that is even used when, for example, you're logging in. So when you're logging in, it's saying, okay, get me certain data related to this user, okay? And see if this user exists. That's what a GET request is. Now, when a GET request, well, you may have noticed there are these things that says question marks, so and so equals whatever, right? Now that essentially is basically just some parameters that you're passing in. So when you pass in a GET request, whatever GET request you've passed, that shows up in your URL bar. And why might this not be secure? Why might you might not use a GET request in some cases? Why might you not want to use a GET request? Let me reiterate. You use a GET request when you're, for example, logging in or something like that, or when you're when you're requesting for some data, and that whatever you ask for, or basically whatever the server responds with, shows directly in your URL bar, so everyone can see it, even in your history. Why might you not want to use, or where might you not want to use a GET request?
Yeah, maybe in some sensitive.
Right. So you're entering a password. You don't want everyone to see that password, right?
Yes.
So that's where post request comes. So when you're logging in, it's usually what people do is they use post request. So that actually doesn't show to your URL bar, but the server knows about it. So it's kind of anonymous. Okay, that's essentially what incognito does. All right, so any questions on today's lecture? It was a much shorter lecture just on internet and things like that. Any question on today's lecture?
Yeah, I was just thinking, Pranav, this get and post.
Yeah.
So are you referring this as PHP or anything in general?
Anything in general. So it may be done by PHP. When I usually personally don't use PHP. I use Flask in Python. So
Got it.
GET
Yeah.
and POST requests are done by Flask. They're done by any single language that can communicate with a server.
Yep.
In fact, we will be learning how to get GET and POST requests done in React Native very soon,
Got it.
and how to connect with a server that I probably can set up. Right?
Yep. Maybe we have to check. Do it with the local server.
Probably not. I can probably get something set up on Heroku.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that everyone can, try it out.
Okay.
All right, so any other questions? Good question. Any other questions related to this lecture, today's lecture? Sorry. All right, so with that, we end today's lecture. It's been a much shorter lecture today. But next week, we're actually going to be talking about component life cycles. And that's when you'll be getting your first project. Did all of you get a chance to look at that Pomodoro timer app I uploaded? A few weeks ago, I think a month ago, actually, on the group.
Yes. Yes. I have gone. I have seen that.
Yeah, so that is what you will be building as a next week's project. So you can get ready for that, and I'll be teaching you one component that you will need, which is component life cycles, and we'll learn about that next week. All right, so Again, if you do have any doubts throughout the week, feel free to get in contact with me. I will hold office hours as usual. And with that, we come to the end of today's lecture. It was great having you all. Hope you had, again, a very, very good Diwali last week. And yeah, and with that, I will meet you next second. All right.